In 1565, an Ottoman armada carrying 40,000 soldiers anchored off the coast of Malta. Defending the island were just 500 elite knights, supported by a few thousand local militia. Malta sat at the strategic center of the Mediterranean. If the island fell, it would serve as the primary staging ground for a full-scale Ottoman invasion into Italy and the rest of Western Europe. The Sultan's elite janissaries were led by his most trusted generals, while the defenders were commanded by the 70-year-old Grand Master Jean Perisseau de La Valette. La Valette's strategy was built on attrition. He didn't need to defeat the Sultan in a traditional battle. He only needed to turn the island into a meat grinder, trading lives for time until a relief force could arrive from Sicily. This vintage map of the Grand Harbor shows why the geography favored the few. The knights concentrated their defense on Fort St. Angelo, Sanglea, and the highly exposed Fort St. Elmo, which blocked the Ottoman fleet from finding safe anchorage. By forcing the Sultan's army to funnel 40,000 troops into these narrow, fortified strips of rock, the knights mitigated the enemy's numerical advantage. A massive army is only effective if it has the space to deploy its full weight. The Ottomans began a massive artillery bombardment of Fort St. Elmo, assuming the small star fort would crumble in a matter of days. As the walls turned to dust, the garrison asked for permission to retreat. La Valette refused. He ordered them to hold the position at any cost, effectively sacrificing the men to stall the invasion's progress. The delay of the siege cost the Ottomans dearly. In the trenches, they lost thousands of soldiers and their most experienced naval commander, Turgut Reis. On June 23rd, a final infantry charge finally overran the fort. The remaining defenders were wiped out, but the siege had taken nearly a month. This chart illustrates the cost of that delay. The 1,500 defenders killed at St. Elmo had taken 6,000 Ottoman soldiers with them, buying the main forts 4 weeks to shore up their own defenses. In July, the Ottomans pivoted their focus. They moved their heavy guns toward the main peninsulas of Sanglea and Birgu, launching a new wave of attacks. During an attempted amphibious assault, the invaders were stopped by a hidden underwater palisade of spikes. Hundreds of soldiers were impaled or drowned as they tried to reach the shore under heavy fire. When the cannons finally breached the landward walls, the fighting turned to hand-to-hand combat in the rubble. The knights' heavy steel armor and specialized weaponry gave them a distinct advantage in these cramped, chaotic spaces. These localized traps and choke points broke the rhythm of the Ottoman campaign, turning what should have been a swift conquest into a demoralizing, high-casualty slog. By August 7th, the defense had reached its breaking point. A massive assault by 12,000 men breached the walls of the main harbor, and the knights were pushed back into the streets. At that exact moment, a small group of just 100 cavalrymen from the inland city of Medina launched a surprise raid on the Ottoman camp, burning tents and slaughtering the sick. The sound of the raid caused a panic on the front lines. The Ottoman soldiers mistakenly believed a massive relief army had arrived from Sicily and abandoned their assault to protect their camp. This sudden reprieve completely fractured the Ottoman command. As their generals argued over the failure, the physical strain of the siege was compounded by a collapse in morale. By September, the Ottoman army was suffering from disease and exhaustion. In a final, desperate move, they marched on the inland city of Medina, hoping to secure a victory before the winter storms arrived. Medina was nearly out of supplies, but the defenders staged a bluff. They fired their cannons while the Ottomans were still out of range, projecting an image of strength and limitless ammunition. The bluff worked. The Ottoman generals, fearing another long siege, ordered a full retreat to their ships, just as the long-awaited 8,000-man relief force finally landed on the coast. The final tally of the siege was devastating. The island lost a third of its population, while the Ottoman army suffered up to 30,000 casualties before the last ships departed. By refusing to yield, the defenders of Malta had forced the Sultan to abandon his best opportunity for a bridgehead into Europe. It remains a stark example of how a few can hold the line, if they are willing to pay the price. How far would you go to hold your ground?